Raoul's made 8 function flashcards for review. These are all functions because they pass the vertical line test. Each x value has its own y value. So we're going to do some probability picking from these flashcards. So the first one, given that Raoul's picked a card with multiple zeros, what is the probability that it is a trig wave? So we're told he already has a card that has multiple zeros. So that could be the quadratic, the absolute value, the sin wave, the quartic, or the cos wave. So there's 5 cards that have multiple zeros on them. That's going to be our denominator. He's already picked a card with a multiple zero. There's 5 of them. And how many of those are trig waves? Just the 2, sin and cos. Next one, Raoul's picking 2 cards. He's going to find the probability of getting a 1-to-1 function and then picking a trig wave. So here, on his first draw, the chance of picking a 1-to-1 function, or one that passes the horizontal line test, he could pick the exponential growth, he could pick the radical, or he could pick the log. So 3 out of 8 of those functions are 1-to-1. Now in this case, let's say he leaves one of those cards out, the one he picks, so there's only going to be 7 left over. And how many of those 7 are trig waves? Just the sin and the cos. So that's 2. And we are going to multiply those 2 fractions together because of the word and. We want both things, both cards to happen. So that gives him a 6 out of 56 chance of picking a card that's 1-to-1 and picking one that's a trig wave. The next probability is where we're going to start combining our addition and multiplication rules. We want to find the probability of picking a card, a function that's got 2 zeros, and a function that's even in any order. So I could perform this feat by picking a card with 2 zeros first, and then a card that's an even function second. Or, since it says in any order, I could pick the even function first, and then a function with 2 zeros second. And we'll do this one with replacement. After he picks the first card, we're going to put it back in. So the probability of me picking a card with 2 zeros would be here and here. 2 of the 8 cards have 2 zeros. And, which means multiply, now we want a function that's even, which means when you plug in opposite x values, you get the same y values out. Or, in terms of a graph, it is symmetrical about the y-axis. So the quadratic would fit that description, and the quartic would fit that description, and the cos wave would fit that description. So that means we have 3 out of 8 that are even, which gives me a probability of 6/64 of going 2 zeros and then even. Or, which means plus sign, we could go the opposite order. We could pick any one of the 3 evens first, 3 out of 8 that are even, and then any one of the 2 that have 2 zeros second, which would be also 6/64. So if there's 6 out of 64 ways to get 2 zeros and even, and 6 out of 64 ways to get even and 2 zeros, altogether we have a 12 out of 64 chance when we add 6/64 and 6/64. And lastly, probability of picking a function with an infinite range and then a card with an infinite domain in any order. So same thing. We could get an infinite range and then infinite domain, or we could pick a function with an infinite domain first and then an infinite range second. This one we'll do without replacement. So on my first draw, my chance of picking one with an infinite range, or a function that goes forever up and down, is just the logarithmic function. So just 1 out of 8. And then multiplying that by the chance of picking an infinite domain. So there's only 7 cards left, and how many of them go forever left and right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of 7. The only one that doesn't is the radical. So my chance of going infinite range and then getting a card with infinite domain is 6 out of 56. And then going the opposite way, picking an infinite domain first, well, there would be 6 out of 8. And then when I keep one of those out, there's only 7 left. And there's only one that has an infinite range, our log curve. So that would be another 6 out of 56 chance. So with the or in between, 6 out of 56 plus 6 out of 56 is 12 out of 56.